charged in 2023 CR 927-5 with malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, tampering with evidence, and concealing the death of another. She is represented by two attorneys who are law partners, and I do not want to say the names wrong, so I apologize, but it's Mr. Benchita and Mr. Ololoye? Okay, all right, who are present with her here in court today. And I know there's a Rule 22 motion the court wants to.
There's a Rule 22 motion filed by Court TV. And counsel, I just need to know if either side objects.
I have no objection, Judge.
No objection from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, Rule 22 motion by Court TV is granted. And let the record reflect that Ms. Goebel is present, has been present since the start of the proceedings. All right. Ms. Dowd, you may proceed with your motion.
Okay, thank you, Judge. The state filed a motion to eliminate to introduce evidence concerning Satanism, the occult, serial killers, and other similar evidence. In this case, we provided some work product, essentially, that covers a variety of social media messages, primarily TikTok and Facebook, that are the defendants. Some of them are made at or around the time of the murder back in 2016, and then in the years following that. They reference, as the motion indicates, Satanism, murder, serial killers. Some of them even reference acts that would be very relevant and particular to the fact pattern of this particular murder, which is a very unusual one. So they have a lot of relevance. I want to go through the facts that are present in this case because it is so important to understand the particular facts present in this murder and how all of these messages relate. So I'll do that briefly. So back in February of 2016, the victim, Morgan Bauer, moved down to the Atlanta area from South Dakota, and she was living in the greater Atlanta area. I'll say she was working as an exotic dancer, and in that capacity, she met the co-defendant, one of the defendants here, Caitlin Goebel. And her and Miss Goebel had a brief friendship, I would say. She did not know her for very long, but at some point, Miss Bauer had a housing situation and didn't have somewhere to stay. Miss Goebel said, "Why don't you come stay with me and my boyfriend, the co-defendant, Jonathan Warren, who's already pled guilty, in Porterdale, Georgia, where they lived in a room that's essentially sort of a room you can access from the outside of the home, but in the basement of his parents' home." So she went back to stay there with Ms. Goebel and Mr. Warren, and that is the night that they murdered her. It was unknown for a long time. This was a cold case until a couple of years ago when actually Ms. Goebel came forward. She was living in Peoria, Illinois at that time, and at first indicated that she had just some information about a murder that had occurred. She did not implicate herself as being involved in any way, just that essentially she knew that it had occurred, that Mr. Warren was involved, and where the body would be located, and things of that nature. It was not necessarily an altruistic forthcoming of information. She was going through a divorce at the time, and there was a custody battle that potentially could happen, and her ex-husband, Mr. David Settles, he knew about some of her involvement, at least in this murder. So she knew that that was about to be information that would be revealed potentially. So in her first version of events, like I said, she doesn't really implicate herself in any of the acts that occur in the murder. But through the course of a couple different interviews and her being sort of confronted with some phone records information that existed and different things of that nature, what she ultimately, through I think 3 different interviews, reveals is that she was present for the murder. She indicates that Mr. Warren that is strangling or assaulting the victim in some capacity, and that after the fact, she helps cut up the body parts and put them in a suitcase, and they burn it in the backyard. So she admits to getting knives and cutting off some of the limbs of the victim. She indicates, I think, through the course of these interviews, that she was coerced by Mr. Warren, that he was abusive, or things of that nature, essentially. In the interview itself, she presents she's wearing a butterfly sweatshirt, she's very docile, soft-spoken, things of that nature. At one point, I think in the first interview, she even says, leans over to whisper to one of the investigators that he had told her there were books in the suitcase, but she knew it wasn't books. things like that that are occurring. It's a direct contrast to all of her messaging and posting on social media at the time the murder happens and subsequent. So nonetheless, those interviews are conducted. Law enforcement goes out to the home in Porterdale. They are able to locate some of Ms. Bauer's bones there, and they're able to confirm that it is what some of the remains were in fact of Ms. Bauer. They also are able to find some of Morgan Bauer's jewelry in the vents in one of the rooms, or I guess it was in the bedroom area of the room where Ms. Warren and Ms. Goebel and Mr. Warren were staying. Additionally, Mr. Warren was arrested. He was in California at the time that the case came to fruition and we had any warrants issued. He was arrested and he, at arraignment, pled guilty. And he did so without having any kind of immunity or deal or anything like that in place. In fact, he asked for the death penalty himself. His attorney asked for life, the state asked for life without parole. He entered a guilty plea and he gave a very lengthy, I think it's maybe close to 3 hours long statement where he implicates himself in the murder of Morgan Bauer and he implicates Ms. Goebel as well, as certainly a lot more than cutting up any limbs or things of that nature. He indicates that they obviously were in a relationship, that Ms. Goebel had sort of obsession or great interest in occults and in Satanism and the underworld. He talks about how she had made a pact with the Duke of the Underworld to kind of sell her soul in that capacity, and that whole occult aspect was a great interest to her and as a motive to this murder. He also talks about her having a great interest in forensic pathology and murder in general, and that she had wanted to murder somebody and wanted to cut up a body. And so they bring Morgan back to the house here in Porterdale, and she asks him to kill her. And so he does. He strangles her, and then they stop and wait for the blood to coagulate in the body, and then they cut off the limbs, and they have the torso there for 3 days. And Mr. Warren has sex with the torso many times throughout the course of the 3 days. They cut her head off as well. He washes the hair of the decapitated head. During one of the times that Mr. Warren is having sex with the torso, he indicates Ms. Goebel puts one of the victim's nipples in her mouth. He also indicates that they ate her clitoris through the course of this. And then after the body was just bloated, and I say the body, the torso was bloated to the point that they needed to dispose of it, they put it in a suitcase along with the limbs and her head and burn it outside in the backyard where the remains are found, 8 years later, I think it was. So this was all on, the date of the murder was on or around February 26th of 2016. So those are the basic facts, but some of those details, Judge, I think are very important here. Because essentially what it comes down to is the tale of two Caitlin Goebels. You have how she presents in her interview with presenting, docile, mild, meek, and also as not being fully involved in any kind of planning or forethoughts or even part of the murder aspect of this itself, just with the concealing of the death, which she presents as being her having to do that at the whim of a controlling boyfriend, essentially. And then you have social media posts happening at that time and subsequent that are her and with devil horns and satanic symbols and talking about murder. She posts the night of the murder a meme that says, "This is Bob, Bob kills people." She talks about death is when the party started a week after the murder. There's things like that, and I'm going to go through a lot of these specifically, but just to summarize it, that is why this is so important. They show her motive at that time, which is not going to be present, obviously, from the interviews that she provides. And it corroborates what co-defendant's statement is. So I've kind of put these into 3 different categories, Judge. And I provided the work product because I think it just helps break it down. So if you see on the work product sheet the highlights that have the number 1 next to them, and I'll say some of them fall into more than one category, quite frankly. I kind of think of it more like a Venn diagram. There are some that are in category 1, 2, and 3, some that are in 1 and 2, things like that. But the first category that I think is relevant here is that there are some posts that are obviously and innately intrinsic to the evidence in this case, that are either made at or around the time of the murder, or they are so directly specific to some of the facts of this murder that I think they're just intrinsic to the case in and of itself. Some of those are, like I said, the one about this is Bob and Bob kills people. That's going to be on page 10 of the work product that we provided, where you can find that one. And that was made, like I said, the day, it's either just before or just after the murder would have happened. Essentially, also around that same time, she posts a skull and pentacle image. It's also on page 10. 3 days before the murder, to the co-defendant, she sends a meme about a goth girl introducing her boyfriend to the occultic Dark Lords. That's on page 10. On 12 days after the murder is when she says, posts that death is when the party really started. And 2 weeks before the murder, this is also on page 10, she says, we serial killers are everywhere. More of your children are dead tomorrow. Another example of the ones in this category that are for facts that are very specific to this murder itself, the unusual nature of this murder, is on page 2, a TikTok video. She says, I'm a cannibal because I eat people. And on page 3, there's a video she posts, and I have some of these I can show the court at the end of this, where she is holding a severed head and singing along to a song that says, backyard full of dead bodies, and goes on to say, she's kind of tossing the severed head around, and she's in just full makeup. This is posted in 2021, and I think it's especially relevant because, you know, not only did they sever her head in this murder case, but also it's relevant in that sort of second category we get to in a minute of, she's not traumatized by Mr. Warren, he's not controlling her actions in this instance. She made decisions and she continues to make them, and it is not of a traumatic issue to her, if that makes sense. There's some even 7 months after the murder where she says to David Settles, who she started to talk to, the now ex-husband, where he asks, like, we'll go to the cemetery and break the bodies, and she says, is it rape if they're already dead? Things like that.
The ones you're referring to now, are they on page 10?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was on, I forgot to write down a page number on that last one. That last one is a Facebook message. I'm not positive of the page it's on my work product. I'm sorry, I did not write that one down. We'll find that. But moving to category 2 is what I would indicate. These show that contrast or disprove her assertions in her interview itself. That she was made to do this, or that she was under the control of the other participant. Instead, it shows that she's an active participant. She's planning this. She has an interest in murder and things along those lines. It simultaneously corroborates the statement and the version of events that is told by the co-defendant. And the state obviously has to corroborate this co-defendant's statement in its case in chief anyhow. So these are certainly relevant and helpful in doing that. Some of those that I think are clearly fall into this category, and again, they may fall into the other categories, but are on page 11, she says, I am more of a siren than a mermaid. I could decimate David if I wanted to, etc. And talks about her ability to control him. And just before that, she says, keep in mind, I have a lot of different mannerisms. I'm a great chameleon. Later, on page 11 also, she speaks of having different personalities. And on page 11, she also talks about Mr. Warren having dirt on her. She's talking to Mr. Settles, and she says, he has dirt on me, so I guess I'll have to kill him. On page 10, she also says, I hug people. She either says or reposts memes that say, I hug people so that I know how big of a hole to dig. She posts on page 8, she makes a post that true evil looks like me. Page 9, there's things where she says there are there go people not appreciating the effort I put into not being a serial killer. page 11, she also made a post that says, I always think, well, someone's dying, fun. And so there's many like that that kind of show her true belief towards murder. There's many about serial killers and serial killer idolation. And it's just a direct contrast to how she presents herself in that interview, and is incredibly corroborative of exactly how Mr. Warren would describe her interactions. There's also a third category, which I think is really what the motion here focuses on entirely, but I wanted to go ahead and be sure to include everything. But our motion is really about this motive evidence. Those are arguably intrinsic to, her statement and the truth of it, his statement, and some of them are intrinsic to the murder itself. But there's also a lot of these posts that are about the occult world, serial killers, or murder idolation. And those show motive here. So that's what Mr. Warren talks about, is her interest in all of these things independently, and then wanting to kind of see some of those carried out. And the court has been clear, with the cases that I provided, that when, like there's some examples, I'll start with the Ernest v. State case, 262, Georgia 494. Court found that the prosecutor questioning the co-defendant at length about his cult's involvement in Satan worship and church vandalism was relevant to the issue of motive for the murder committed. And then Whitener v. State, 261, Georgia 56. The defendant's notebook contained references to a cult properly admitted to prove motive, where defendant murdered the victim by shooting, and had stated he hoped to become a vampire and wanted to drink the victim's blood and keep his head. And then there's a Rhodes v. State case, which I did not print. It's a new 2025 case, where a defendant's Facebook post stating that Lucifer understands why I kill was relevant and probative evidence. And it wasn't, there's no unfair prejudice there. And it didn't need to be altered or redacted. The one case we found where the court found that the evidence provided shouldn't have been admitted, that dealt with this sort of occult Satanism beliefs, is in the Boring case I provided a copy of. It's a case where a 15-year-old was charged with her mother's murder. And in her bedroom, they found like dark makeup and dark wigs and some like curses written out on paper and things like that, but none of it was explicitly referencing Satanism or satanic ideals or anything like that. And none of the evidence tied any of it to that kind of occult belief. So that was the issue in Boring, which is in contrast to what we had here, which is, well, our case here is in line with all those other cases that say this evidence of motive can be presented, despite it obviously being prejudicial, but if it provides probative value, then it can be presented. So here is different than Boring. You have so many references just point blank to Satanism that Ms. Goebel makes. She shows a copy on page 3 on the work product. She shows a copy of Satanic Bible. She holds it up. It's on a video. She indicates she posts on someone's wall or someone's message that says, "You're saving yourself for Satan." She makes comments, "Roses are red." That's on page 8. "Roses are red. Violets are blue. Demons are running circles in my head." That's on page 9. She explicitly references, I think, a Hail Satan on at least 1 or 2 instances. And this is in addition to all the quotes from serial killers and everything, which I think fall into other categories as well. But she's openly discussing this. In her TikTok videos, she has upside down pentagons. She has the half-it that she's wearing. It's just very obvious that that's what she's participating in. I think that's what Mr. Settles would indicate that they worship and participated in as well. And that's obviously what Mr. Warren indicates is occurring too. So all of those postings are just motive for this murder to occur in the first place, and why she's interested in committing one and going about it in the way that they did. So, I'm happy to kind of flesh these out more if we need to, based on, 1 second. I have a few of them saved on a thumb drive that I would like to just show the court. real quick because it is one thing to read it on a page and another to see it. I want to pull those up. And I have asked the defense if there are any particular, I sent this to them so that I could say if there are any particular social media posts, messages, videos that you don't, in particular, think should not be admissible. Since we're kind of dealing with some that may fall into different categories, let me know so that we can narrow this down to hash it out. And they told me it's a blanket objection to all of them. So I wasn't able to sort of narrow down any further than I have, other than to submit the ones that are highlighted that I think are the most relevant that we would use. But I don't want to limit myself, seeing as I can't obviously be sure of how evidence will go up. Do you know how?
And Your Honor, I was going to cast for connection. So we are connecting to CR1I. It should be connected. Is it CR4?
Oh, right.
Sorry.
CR4.
Okay, sorry, not 4.
If we're going to display it, I think the court has to switch that. If not, if the court can see it, then.
Counsel, can you see? You cannot, you're looking on your monitor.
I don't think their monitor's on.
Okay.
Will you help me hide the body? Huh? Come on, you can't delay.
What did you do?
No one can see him on the floor. Get him out the door, or he can decay.
Now why would you call me? If you wouldn't eat a person, why would you eat an animal? Well, it's bold of you to assume that I wouldn't eat a person.
Or
It's my body. I'm gonna do what I want with it. Okay, fair enough. But it's been rotting in the corner all day and it smells terrible. Can you move it outside? Move it outside. No! It's my body. I'm gonna do what I want with it.
And I'd argue some of those like that are directly, like what she's discussing there is a fact of a case that they have here, or that they have a corpse for days.
What are the dates of those posts?
On that one. That's probably going to be in sometime in 2021, the last video we just showed. It's a TikTok video, and I think most of the TikTok videos didn't start till 2021.
That one, the video about.
I want you to convince me why I should let you live. Go. Oh, that's right. You can't talk.
And this is the next one where she's holding the severed head. I, for some reason, couldn't find it on Axon, so I put it like in a regular video, but I have where I recorded it from her TikTok playing, so I just included that for today. We would have the regular video.
just know where to hide inside a bad dream. Don't be afraid. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm gonna kill you. What?
You've been sleeping for quite a while. I think they noticed that you never left the building last night. The cameras were searching for you, but they couldn't find you. I have you hidden too well. I kidnapped you.
Wanna taste of my brain? Okay, it's yours anyway. A light in my eye. Alright, I won't put up a fight. How about today? You could be someone else for a spin. Because the way things are going, I will last another day.
Those are all that I have on this thumb drive on Tinder. So no, it's right.
Marking that as State's Exhibit 1.
Yes.
Motion hearing State's Exhibit 1.
Yes. And that's all I have in terms of argument right now.
That's.
Thank you, Your Honor, for hearing this out. As the state mentioned, this is a blanket objection to everything that the state's trying to admit. Just to go over a couple of things, Your Honor, on the face of the motion that the state filed, essentially, Your Honor, they're saying that the reason for bringing in all of this evidence would be for motive. Your Honor, we're arguing, of course, essentially it's a backdoor 404 argument. Therefore, we're arguing against, Your Honor, because it's highly prejudicial. There's nothing probative against it. And because it's 404, then we would ask the court to do the 403 balancing test. And I don't believe that it'll pass because it's highly prejudicial, Your Honor. What the state is arguing that it's admissible. Generally, the conformity of the argument is inadmissible. Of course, they're alleging that it's evidence of motive, but Your Honor, basically, it's showing propensity. What it's showing is that because of what my client did while doing cosplay or on her social media, her personal time, because she acted in this way, therefore she acted in this way in a murder, and that's one way the law says that it's inadmissible. We have a case law, Your Honor. Basically, let me give you that case in citation. 318 Georgia 579, that's a Georgia Supreme Court. That's Jennings v. State. Essentially what the defense gets from that, Your Honor, and I'll read, extrinsic evidence is defined as evidence that pertains to an uncharged offense arising from the same transaction or series of transactions as the charged offense. 2, is necessary to complete the story of the crime, or 3, is intertwined with the evidence regarding the charged offense. Your Honor, we're arguing that none of this is intrinsic, that it's not relevant. If you look at the videos that the state just played, this is all from TikTok. Now, I'm not big on TikTok, but the audio comes from artists, their songs, their music. It's cosplay, which is very common, and even I would argue some of the
Define that for me, please.
Sorry, Your Honor?
Define that for me.
So cosplay, Your Honor, is essentially where people dress up. They have, it's pre-made videos or audios, and then someone takes, so let's say I'm into working out. So let's say I go and I dress up, or if I'm into anime, or what's the action movie? Dragon Ball Z or something of that nature. There's a voiceover that someone already pre-made, and I dress up as a character and just play out what's being said, essentially. That's what cosplay is, Your Honor. It's not my client that made up these things. She's just dressing up to a video that's pre-made, and some other people who are more experienced in it have better videos. But that's essentially all it is. So that's the argument, Your Honor, that it's cosplay. It's very common, and a lot of these things were done around Halloween, which Halloween people dress up. They into, serial killers, or half of America is into crime shows or things of that nature. And also, Your Honor, if I can quote another case that we would like to present to Your Honor, it's 919 Supreme Court, it's SE 2D 595. It's a Supreme Court. And I believe the state also mentioned this case. It's the Rose v. State. And what we get from that, Your Honor, yes, in that case they allowed the evidence in, but what we want to focus on for the defense is in that Facebook post, Rhodes declared Lucifer is the reason, understands why I kill. And the reason the court allowed that to come in is because what they stated is Rhodes' statements to May's murder, which Rose complains on appeal, was given the time of the post. If you look at these posts that the state put for all the posts that happened, allegedly this crime was committed in 2016. A lot of these posts, Your Honor, are 5 years later. 2000, 2001, I believe there's some from 2019. So we'll argue, Your Honor, it's not relevant. That, of course, it's not intrinsic, and this is so far apart that the state cannot show that it's irrelevant in any way to the crime that was committed. In Rhodes, these things, the things that were posted were maybe the same day, maybe after. A lot of these things that the state's trying to just admit were 5 years after, and there's no connection to that. So basically, Your Honor, we object to everything that's being put in or argued on behalf of the state. One, propensity, that it's highly prejudicial. I would even argue that it would confuse the jury, because if they see something that happened years after the alleged crime, that, as I stated, propensity, because my client dressed up, she acted in this nature, because of Halloween or because of cosplay, then yes, she committed this crime. And also, Your Honor, the state argues ritual, and in this case, there's an allegation that the body was dismembered, the head was dismembered, but there's nothing to show satanic rituals. There's no markings, there's no, normally when it comes to rituals, there's markings, there's symbols. None of that was done to this body, and nothing was done pertaining to this case. All we have is the allegations or the testimony, possible testimony of the co-defendant in this case. And if that's the case, put them on the stand, we'll have the opportunity to cross them. But I think everything else is cumulative, that it's not intrinsic, that it's not relative, and then it's highly prejudicial, and it doesn't have a probative value. Thank you for hearing this out, Your Honor.
I take it there's no issue that she's the one depicted in the videos?
I'm sorry, Your Honor?
Is there an issue that she is the person depicted in the videos?
No, Your Honor, because as we stated, that's cosplay, Your Honor, and so it has nothing to do with this case, especially the time frame of when it happened. This is something she does on her personal time, and as I said, it's already, they're pre-made videos. So many people make these type of videos. It's very common. I don't do it, but it's very common. So that shouldn't be used against her, right? Because it has to have a reason. It's not relevant. It's not probative. So we just ask that it be excluded.
Do you have any argument in response to the state's argument that the evidence that the state seeks to introduce goes to rebut her claim in her statement that she was under the influence of Mr. Warren?
I'm sorry, say that again, Your Honor?
As I understand, part of the state's argument, it is that the evidence goes to rebut her claim in her statement that she was operating under the influence of Mr. Warren, her co-defendant, and that this evidence goes to rebut that.
Give me 1 second, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. So essentially what they're trying to show, there's nothing in these videos or in these postings that will show that she wasn't under the control of this co-defendant. There's nothing that helps the state show that she wasn't under the control. And like I stated, if he can testify to that, whether he was or not. But there's nothing by showing the cosplay. How does that video of her listening to music or repeating something that was already pre-made from an artist or anything show that she wasn't under control by this individual at the time of this alleged crime?
Could a jury find that the social media posts and the videos together show that she may enjoy this type of thing?
They may find that she may enjoy cosplay, but we also say that it's irrelevant, so why put it in? and it's highly prejudicial because what we're arguing is that because they see that she's into cosplay or she's into makeup and, you know, Halloween and all this other stuff, that what the state's gonna argue is because of that, or what we're saying the state's arguing is because of that, therefore she committed this crime.
Well, my question was, could a jury find that the social media posts and the videos combined show that she enjoys that? So for instance, the social media posts say that, or that she's in a conversation with Alexander Warren that says this is Bob kills people for fun. That post, that was on the same day as the alleged murder.
Your Honor, yes, Your Honor, but that's not a crime, and what we're arguing is propensity, because that's essentially what it is. If she did something here, or she liked something here, then therefore she committed this crime. So because she likes things of dark nature, according to these videos, then therefore she committed this. And that's what we're arguing against, and that's what 404 is against.
So, as I understand your argument, the videos are much later in time, and they're too late in time to be relevant to the murder that occurred, or the alleged murder that occurred in 2016.
That's when we're arguing, yes, Your Honor.
How far do you have to go? How far would you suggest is too far? What about the day of, or the night of the alleged murder?
I mean, that's what Rhodes allows, Your Honor. In that time, it's because it was close in time. But they didn't say how far out, but in that, I believe in the Rhodes case that it happened, or the posting was the day after. But even with that, in our case, Your Honor, of course, we're arguing against the ones that are further out, you know, years out, for relevance and other arguments, but we're also arguing the balancing test as well.
So, what about the December 1st, 2016 meme that she posted, or allegedly posted, about serial killer documentaries? On the TV, and the photo says, "Kidnapped girl found slain, dismembered, hid in sewer." Any objection to that?
Of course, Your Honor, we object to everything. And like I said, Your Honor, it's the same argument. Although that's closer in time for what the state's asking, we still believe it should go through the balancing test. And we've argued that that's highly prejudicial. Now, for the time frame, like I said, just based off the Rhodes case, that the court hasn't defined what's a good time frame, what's not. And we hear the state's argument of closer in time, but we also feel that it should go through the balancing test as well.
Judge, what was your Rhodes citation, case citation again? I have 919 SC 2nd 595.
Your Honor, can I approach? I can just have a copy for you.
Yeah, I think we cite Rhodes as well, Judge.
Okay.
It's a 2025 case, I think.
And I'll also circle or highlight it in there.
Thank you.
This is the other piece we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else from the defense?
No, Your Honor, thank you for your time.
Ms. Daly, anything in rebuttal?
Yes, Judge, a little bit in rebuttal. One, in terms of this timeline, we're talking about the Facebook post being made in 2016, and then TikTok post not being made until 5 years later in 2021. Well, it didn't exist until later. And it's nonetheless, so it's not as if she just didn't think about doing, you know what I mean? It just, the temporal issue there, I think, should go more towards weight rather than admissibility, because TikTok wasn't around until 2016 for her to post on anyways.
When did TikTok come into existence?
okay, so 2018, but it gained popularity in 2020, I think around COVID time frame is when I remember at least TikTok becoming popular. And she started posting in 2020 or 2021, I'm not sure when the first post was. But they aren't all around, in 2020 she started posting TikTok videos. They are not all around Halloween, they are regular every month of the year as well. And importantly, they're very close in time to her statement that she makes, I think, which was in 2023. I'd have to look up the exact date of the time when she goes in Peoria, Illinois, but I think it's July of 2023. So she's been posting TikTok videos in only for 2.5 years or so, at the point in time in which she's making her statement, which is drastically different from obviously her presentation on these videos. I also think it's important to note, if we're talking about this being cosplay and cosplay situation, but that's just cosplay, it has no bearing on anything. It's kind of analogous to sort of the rap lyrics argument that's made at times, where if you are going to rap or sing a song about a particular murder, right, and the facts that are relevant to that murder in particular, then later you can't say, well, that's just my artistic expression. Like, that is still evidence to show that. A jury, you can make that argument to a jury, but that's still information that's relevant to show motive regardless. And then, I think that covers what I needed to say in rebuttal, Judge. I'll end with this. Our motion references motive, but I want to be clear. There's some of the evidence that would only go to show motive because it isn't intrinsic based on the time that it was made, or isn't intrinsic based on sort of refuting her statement or the specific facts that occurred in the murder. But there is a lot of this that is not just present for motive, but it is inherently intrinsic to the murder and the facts of that murder itself.
So, you've given me $14 pages of statements, posts that she's made. Are you seeking to introduce everything on all 14 pages?
I mean, practically, I'm sure we will not, Judge. And I'll note this, it's not really 14 pages. I think the first 3 pages have content on them that was actually posted and discussed, and then some of it is sort of where the writing runs off to another page. And then pages 8, 9, 10, and 11 have content on them as well. So it's not just 14 pages. That's why I went through and highlighted a lot of them, because those, I think, are the ones. I think there was one more that I forgot to highlight on page 1 where she uses audio talking about killing one person. It's towards the bottom of the page. Other than that, no, I mean, those are the ones I found most relevant. I hate to limit myself at this point in the game, so I would say yes, with an understanding that we are very careful in what we will present. I don't think I'm going to need to present every single social media message that's ever been made by her, but there are some that will need to be presented.
The dates that are reflective of the dates of posting.
Yes.
If you will repeat, you said that you had divided them into 3 categories, 1, 2, and 3. If you will repeat the description of these categories for me.
Yes, sir. Category 1 is this sort of innately and obviously intrinsic evidence because it's either made at or around the time of the murder, or it is so specific as to the facts and circumstances of this murder. Some of the cannibalism and the severed head ideas, or it is made contemporaneously close in time. And then category 2 is ones that would show a contrast or disprove her assertions in her interview that she was made to participate in this, that she's just meek and mild and it wasn't her idea and she didn't really have anything to do with it. And that category would simultaneously corroborate Mr. Warren's statement, which is the opposite of that, and I have to do that. And then the third category is this occult serial killer murder idolation idea that would strictly go to show motive. That's the satanic worship. And a lot of them, I mean, I'm being frank, they overlap, because sometimes she's discussing Satanism, the same vein that she's talking to Mr. Warren or something, so.
Right. Anything else for anybody?
No, Your Honor.
No.
I'll second matter of advisement, Mr. Rule.
Thank you for your time, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Goldman, we're going to take it back into custody.